My name is Caleb, and until that evening, I thought I truly understood the people closest to me. My wife Leah and my employer, Mr. Everett Langford. Everett had the kind of reputation people described with words like polished, influential, and magnetic. I had always seen him as just my boss, exacting, sharp, and predictable. But one dinner revealed how little I really knew him. Leah and I had been married for 7 years. She was warm, witty, and had a quiet beauty that made strangers smile just by looking at her. I loved the way she could make even the most stressful day feel lighter, simply by being herself. Everett had heard me talk about her countless times but had never met her in person. So when he invited us both to a private dinner, casually celebrating the team's recent accomplishments, I didn't think much of it. In fact, I was eager to introduce my wife to the man who held so much sway in my professional life. The restaurant was the sort of place with soft, flattering light, near-silent servers, and tables spaced far enough apart to ensure privacy. Everett arrived first, already seated, a glass of something rich and aged in hand. I noticed immediately how his head turned sharply when he spotted us, his eyes locking on Leah before they even reached me. He rose with a polite smile, yet his gaze lingered on her longer than seemed natural. "Lila," he said, taking her hand in both of his, "I've heard so much about you. Caleb may have undersold you." Leah laughed lightly, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I hoped he hadn't said anything awkward. Everett chuckled, but it didn't feel directed at her humor. It was a private amusement, as though he alone understood some unspoken joke. We sat down, Leah across from me, Everett beside me, but he subtly angled his chair toward her, as if the conversation was meant to revolve around just the two of them. I noticed it but dismissed the thought. Maybe he was simply attentive, I told myself. Perhaps it was nothing. But the nothing kept piling up. Every time Leah spoke, he leaned in a little too closely. When she smiled, his gaze lingered on her lips instead of her eyes. Whenever I spoke, his response was sharp and brief, and almost immediately, his focus drifted back to her. I tried to remain calm. After all, this dinner mattered. Everett controlled promotions, raises, opportunities, the very things that could shape my career. Midway through the meal, the waiter brought a bottle of wine. Everett gestured for Leah to taste it first. She did, examining it with the thoughtful curiosity she always showed when trying something new. He watched her with an intensity that made the hair on my arms rise. When she put the glass down, he murmured softly, "Exquisite." I couldn't tell if he meant the wine. The conversation meandered through work, travel, and other small talk, but the energy at the table felt wrong. Leah appeared cheerful yet oblivious, while Everett seemed calculated, observing her as if memorizing every reaction, filing away every detail for purposes I could not grasp. By the time dessert arrived, I thought the night might be ending without incident. Then Everett leaned forward. He ignored me entirely, focusing solely on Leah. Their eyes locked in a stare far too long to be innocent. His voice dropped to a low, deliberate whisper, meant only for her, but close enough that I heard clearly. "Does he treat you as wonderfully as you deserve?" My stomach tightened immediately. Leah's smile faltered. She seemed taken aback, unsure of how to respond. My hands turned icy. The air felt electric, heavy with something wrong, something I couldn't ignore. Before either of us could react, Everett leaned even closer. His words were low, deliberate, sharp. It would be a shame if someone overlooked her worth. Polite, almost elegant, yet the menace beneath was unmistakable. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay composed. Leah fidgeted, unsure, while I reached across the table to hold her hand, giving her a silent anchor. She nodded, grateful. Everett returned to his casual tone as if nothing had happened, but the implication lingered like smoke in the air. "Caleb, you're fortunate to have someone like Leah," he said. "Truly rare to find someone with such a balance of kindness, wit." The words were flattering, but the threat hidden beneath them cut through the evening like a knife, leaving a tension I could feel pressing against my chest. That night, I realized how little I truly knew the people I thought I did. She moved through the room with intelligence so natural it almost seemed effortless. It was remarkable. I swallowed hard, the urge to respond angrily bubbling up in me, a way to assert control, But I knew confrontation would only escalate things, and I didn't want a scene in front of the restaurant. So, I stayed silent and let him finish. Dinner ended not long after, and we stepped outside into the cool night air. Leia walked beside me, quieter than usual, lost in her own thoughts. Everett trailed a step behind, offering small talk, but I barely registered it. My mind raced with questions, scenarios, and a persistent adrenaline that refused to subside. Once in the car, I finally let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. "What was that about?" I asked, tension thick in my voice. Leia shook her head. I don't know, Caleb. I think he meant something about valuing people, but the way he said it, it felt like a threat. Or maybe a challenge. No, a threat. A challenge. My stomach turned. I had always trusted people, especially those in positions of power. But Everett was different, methodical, subtle, and dangerous in a way that didn't announce itself. My protective instincts flared. The next day at work, I could barely focus. Every glance in Everett's direction made my chest tighten. I replayed that dinner repeatedly, analyzing every word, every look. Objectively, he hadn't crossed a line physically, but emotionally, the impact was undeniable. The idea that if I failed to appreciate Leia, he might step in, lingered like a shadow. Over the following days, I observed him carefully, the way he interacted with colleagues, the tiny gestures and smiles that seemed designed to manipulate without detection. He was meticulous. But I wasn't going to let him intrude on my marriage. Not ever. I noticed Leia had become quieter around me, too. She didn't bring up the dinner or the whispered comment, but I could see it weighed on her. That evening, over a late cup of tea, I spoke. "Leia, I know something happened at dinner. You don't have to tell me everything, but I need to know. Are you okay?" Her eyes shimmered, conflicted. "I'm confused, Caleb. I've never felt anything like that before. I felt, noticed in a way I shouldn't have. Now I feel unsettled." The word hit me like a punch. It wasn't just Everett's words, it was the implication, the subtle power he wielded, the threat he posed. That protective surge hit me harder, sharper. I made a decision right then. Anyone threatening the balance of my life, my marriage, my peace, my family, would have to go through me first. I wasn't the kind of man to stand quietly by while someone tried to unsettle the people I loved. In the weeks that followed, I didn't confront him immediately. Instead, I built quiet defenses, boundaries at work, safeguarding private conversations with Leia, reinforcing trust. Every interaction became a subtle test, a silent contest of wills. Meanwhile, Leia and I spoke openly. We didn't let fear fester. Slowly, clarity emerged. Everett had always been observant, always testing, but the difference between him and me was how we responded. He thrived on tension, manipulation, and subtle dominance. I thrived on trust, clarity, and loyalty. One evening, about a month after that dinner, Everett made another attempt, a casual remark about Leia's charm in a meeting. I interrupted calmly, redirecting the conversation and making it unmistakably clear that our personal lives were off limits. He smiled, surprised, and stepped back. After the meeting, Leia and I sat in silence, our hands intertwined. "No one, Caleb," I whispered. "No one will ever come between us. Not him, not anyone." For the first time in weeks, a weight lifted. The threat hadn't vanished entirely, but our bond had grown stronger. I realized that danger often isn't in the people themselves, it's in allowing their influence to penetrate your life. I refused to let that happen. That night, at home, we had dinner together, laughing, talking, fully present. Everett's whispered words remained in my memory, sharp and unsettling, but they no longer held power over us. Because the strongest defense isn't control over others. It's the unwavering strength of your own integrity, and the love and loyalty that stand beside you.